I don't plan on taking too long, but you never know. So I just want to, I want to hit on a couple of things. Some of this I've talked about already, but I just want to hit on some of this again. And John kind of provoked this thought with what he said, and I'm speaking to everybody in here to some degree. At some point, you have to clear your plate. At some point, you've got to eliminate distractions. You've got to, the statement that I want you to remember is, I've got to let my desire overrule my distractions. And if you're not careful, and I watch people do this over years and years and years and years and years, what happens is they just never get around to going to work. And so what happens is you allow these consistent distractions to take place, and it's one after the other after the other after the other. And what happens is you never have an opportunity to capture momentum in your business, because it's like you get a few things happening, and then you allow some excuses, some distractions to come in, and then you're back in the same spot that you were in before. And so on some level, you've got to make a clear distinction that, hey, I'm not going to allow myself to do this anymore, right? Grab my phone here. And so there were a number of thoughts that I've had in terms of how do you make it so that your desires aren't overruled by your distraction, right? Again, I've watched people for years and years and years and years, and they will consistently have, hey, this came up with my family, this took place with my church obligations, and ultimately what it leads to is you get to a point where I'm never really able to help anybody, because I'm constantly dragged down by the weight of time and money. And I don't have control over time or money, so when it comes to really helping people, I'm really only so helpful. And so, it's like you're on an airplane, and we've all been through this a number of times, and they say, in case of an emergency, what do they say? The oxygen is going to come down,
Put on yourself first.
And put it on yourself first. And you think about that as a parent, as a family person, and you go, gosh, I don't know, could I do that? In an emergency, could I really make that decision to worry about myself first before I worry about others? And listen, that is a pure desire. That's a great, that's coming from the heart. That's a pure, thought process. The problem is, if you don't save yourself, you really can't save somebody else. And they know that in all likelihood, if you don't save yourself first, then you may not ever get to helping somebody else. And so you might only have seconds to consciously save yourself before you need to jump in. And then if a child has been struggling, you could probably jump in there and make a difference, right? And you relate that to the business world. If you're not in a healthy position yourself, if you don't go to work and you don't earn some money and you don't free up some time, you don't get yourself in a position where you get out of suffering and you get out of this sort of paycheck to paycheck mentality where you're just drowning in debt and worried about all these things and just harrowed up and worry of things that you shouldn't have to worry about, then you can't ever really help anybody else. If you're drowning, if you're suffocating, then you're of very little help to somebody. And I just watch people all the time who they bounce around trying to be everything to everybody all the time, and they allow themselves, they open themselves up to receiving distraction. And listen, it's coming from goodness. It is. It's not like you're being distracted by being a crack addict. You're not a serial killer, I hope. There are no serial killers in here. Just tell me if you are.
Oh wait.
Oh wait, I am, right? It's not about being caught up in the bad stuff. Chances are you're probably just allowing yourself to be constantly distracted by good things, and it's keeping you from becoming great. At some point, you have to block out time to really save yourself and get a business moving along that is strong and productive and frees you up. I mean, imagine how much different your life would be if you just had $20,000 a month coming in whether you worked or not. How much more of a help could you be to others at that point, right? What difference would that make? And what if it were 30 or 40 or 50,000 a month, right? Then what could you do? You know, money is a great magnifier. It makes bad people worse and it makes good people better. I was just reading in the New Testament this morning, and it talked about money being the love of money being the root of all evil. Yet it never says don't go get a bunch of it. It just says it shouldn't be the very first priority, and it shouldn't be the only thing you care about. You shouldn't fall so much in love with it that you don't have your other priorities straight, right? But what if you went to work and you got control over time and money, and you then could free yourself up to love all over other people, right? Make a difference, fall in love with serving people and serving a cause.
Yeah, it's a good idea to look in the 121st section, the last two verses, where it talks about their dominion flows unto them. People that do the things that are talked about in the verses there. This is exactly what the general authorities have done. They have put their ducks in a line and done what they're supposed to do in their lives, and their dominion begins to flow unto them.
Right.
Everlastingly. And they're able, they're able to just give.
Yeah.
Because their dominion is flowing unto them everlastingly.
Right, right.
And it's the same in finance.
Right. So if for a period of time you'll sacrifice some time, some discipline, some hard work, you'll put in the effort, you can eventually buy the rest of your life back. If you can get to the point where for 3 to 5 years you put your head down and you go to work, you're going to have to say no to some good things so that eventually you don't have to say no to anything. You're going to have to be able to do that. You know, and this isn't a foreign idea. You've done this already in worse things. You know, how many of you ever had a job before? You ever had one of those? Were there ever some really good things that you wish you could have done, but you had to say no because you had to go to work?
All the time.
All the time.
Just on a daily basis.
Just because you're in business for yourself and you control your time doesn't mean you shouldn't do the same thing. You have to have hours of operation. You've got to have time that's non-negotiable where I work. And if somebody says, hey, this, and this, you say, I'm sorry, I've got to work. Now, I did that for a period of time. I said, I'm sorry, I've got to work. It's not unreasonable. If you were in a job and you didn't work when you're supposed to work, what's going to happen?
You don't have a job.
You don't have a job, you're going to get fired. You need to treat your business almost like a job for a period of time, where you have set hours of operation and you go to work. But the good thing is, you really go to work in a business like this, and you do what you should do over 5 years, you're going to trade 5 for 40. You're going to do what you should for 5 years, and you won't have to do anything for 40 years or longer. You know, but what a lot of people do is they give their life to a 40-year job, and at the end of 40 years, what do they have to show for it? Nothing. They still don't control time and money. So my suggestion to you is that you need to learn to say no to some good things so that you can be great. You know, shut off some of those excuses. And in a lot of cases, it's just you've got to sit down and you've got to decide what's important. You sit down with your family. You sit down with them and say, listen, this is what we need to do over the next 90 days, 6 months, a year. You know, I'm going to have a conversation with my kids here in the next couple of months and say, hey, listen, Daddy needs to do this and this and this and this. It doesn't mean I won't have quality time. It doesn't mean we won't do some great things. But Daddy's got to do this and this and this. These are my goals. And if we do that, then I'm going to bring you to Hawaii with me, you know, next February. But if I don't, then we're gonna have to stay at work. We're gonna have to keep doing the right things. You unleash that kind of deal with kids, what's gonna happen? You tell kids that, they will let you hear it all day, every day for the next 6 to 12 months, right?
Yep.
And so that's a great reminder that I got to stay at work and I got to be productive and I got to make it happen. And listen, I'm not suffering, in terms of, a monthly income, but I feel like there's a whole nother level I could bring it to. And, if I do that now, then what's in store down the road, right? What could you do? And listen, if I'm thinking that way, maybe you ought to be thinking that way, right? I don't know where all of you are at mentally, but gosh, I'm telling you, life really changes if you can get a business with very low overhead that's paying you $4,000 or $5,000 a month. Life really changes. Now you're paying the bills, you've got some decent things going on, but if you got a business with very, very little overhead that's paying you $8,000 to $10,000 a month, now you can start to really be on top of things. You can start to dream about some bigger things. But I'll tell you where life really changes is when you got $20,000 a month coming in, consistently. And if you've got a business with low overhead, you got $20,000 a month coming in, you can start to save some serious money. You can begin to travel and experience life, and you don't have to worry about paying the bills. Life really changes. That's where it really starts, about $250,000 of income on an annual basis. Particularly in an industry like this, where when you get to that level, you're not having to earn every single dollar. You got some residual income coming in. You got some passive income being generated. It really changes. But I would just plant a seed in the back of your head for $500,000 a year. I just want you to be thinking life really changes at $20,000. Then what would be at 40? I mean, if you were living a reasonable life, you kept your expenses in check, you weren't, trying to be a hot shot all over the place, how much money do you think you could save monthly if you were bringing in $40,000 a month?
30.
Probably not 30. I mean, that's great thinking, because at that level you're paying some pretty significant taxation, but you get some write-offs, you got some things that way. But man, it would be easy for you to save $10,000 a month. That'd be comfortable. And if you were smart, you could save more. What if you could maintain an income? What if you could stay out of debt and you could maintain an income need of $5,000 a month and you were earning 40? You're maintaining an income of that, you could easily save $10,000, $15,000, in some months maybe $20,000 a month, and stay on top of taxes and do those things. Now you're saving $120,000 to $200,000 a year. After about 5 years, you put $1 million away, and now you got some interest working in your behalf. Man, you could change your life in a 5 to 10 year period of time. You'd be totally financially free, not just by the income that you've got coming in consistently, but by the savings that you've accumulated. So I'm just telling you, go to work for 3 to 5 years. Put your head down, get in front of people, belly button to belly button, tell them what you do, share your story, set up, get in the business of just working. Stop looking for all these other creative things. I got to read this, I got to do that, if I went to this self-improvement class. No, just go to work. Go see people, tell them what you do. In business, it's not what you know, but who you know. You got to get in the who you know business and the who they know business. Who do you know, who do they know? So that's about word of mouth, it's about driving that process. If we could get a group of people in here focused on that, man, life would change like you can't imagine. And so that's again and again and again and again, that's my message. And when you get to the point where you stop going to big events like we had this weekend, and you're looking for all these extra secrets, and you're just keyed in on, okay, what do I really need to do? What you would have heard is, I just got to work. You'll beat 90% of people in business by just pure hard work. Even if you stink at what you do, you're going to beat 90% of them by hard work. The other 10% of the people is going to be a dogfight. Because you're going to get some studs that are working, that have some talent and skill. Then you want to compete with them, it's going to be a fight. But you'll beat 90% of people by just pure hard work. You should already know that by attending, my weekly, Monday meeting. You see the numbers. It's not skill and talent. It's just pure willpower. That goes out and does it. The people you see leading out, we got people earning $300,000 a year, not out of skill or talent, but out of what? Work ethic. Out of just want to. Have you seen those people at that income level? Have you seen them developing some skill and talent through the work ethic?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it didn't come because of that. It came because they were just willing to work. So as we look at what needs to happen over the next 7 days, a game plan. You know, what am I going to do activity-wise? What scheduling-wise? What am I going to do about getting in front of new people? It's about marketing my services to other folks. And listen, in the world of business, you probably heard stats before, like 95% of businesses what? Fail in the first 12 months. 12 to 18 months, they're gone. You heard that before? It's common knowledge, right? Here's the reason that they fail. A lot of people get into business because they think, I've got a certain knowledge or a skill set that lends itself to that industry. So they think, man, when I was a kid, you know, I used to go out and clean carpet with my dad. He owned a carpet business, and my dad made that work for several years. I just think it was bad timing, whatever, but I know how to clean carpet. That doesn't take a whole lot of skill, so I'm going to start a carpet cleaning business. And 12 to 18 months, they're out of business. And not only that, they're probably bankrupt because they bought a van and they bought the equipment and they bought all this stuff. What was really missing? Listen, anybody can clean carpets. You don't get into a business because you have knowledge of doing a skill or a service. If you know how to work hard, you got the guts to start, and you know how to work hard, you can figure out the knowledge part. Knowledge comes through experience. I've started several businesses that I had no idea how to do them before I started. I just thought there's a need in the marketplace. I can learn what I need to learn. There's people a lot dumber than me succeeding in that deal. I know how to work. I'm not afraid to go out and put my work in, so I'll figure out what I need to know along the way. And whatever I can't figure out, I'll hire somebody who knows how to do it. So if you've noticed, I have some pretty smart staff, right? And so they fill in some of those gaps of things that A, either I don't know, or B, I don't want to know, or C, I shouldn't be spending my time doing because it'd be better to pay someone else to do it. So that I can spend my time getting in front of people, meeting one-on-one, and generating new business, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So most businesses fail because the people just don't know how to get to work. And they don't understand this one key thing. It has nothing to do with all these other things, very little to do with all these other things. It has mostly to do with the fact that you're just going to get to work and you're going to go see people. You're going to get in front of people. It's about marketing. It's about getting in front of people, introducing myself. It's about getting the who do I know, who do they know business. If people did that and they spent more time marketing, more time face-to-face with people telling what they do, these businesses would blow up. But instead, they focus on the knowledge and, you know, they avoid the real work. Stop avoiding the real work. Just go to work and it'll solve almost every problem you got. I'm telling you this is the case, right? So you don't need to worry about all this other stuff. The question is, what can I do today to get in front of some new people, introduce myself, develop some new relationships, tell them what I do, extend an offer for me to sit down with them and meet them. You spend more time doing that, all the other stuff will fall into place. Okay? So what is your marketing plan for your business? What is your strategy for getting in front of new people and telling your story? That's what I'm driving to. Tonight in Inner Circle School, we're gonna talk, you know, about a lot of different things. But, you know, I've been getting text messages from people today about the event over the weekend asking questions. What do you do with this and what do you do with that? Listen, bring those questions to Inner Circle School. But what I want you to do is I want you to be thinking about what is my plan for getting in front of new people. That's why I've suggested that you do a one-page outline for prospecting. You have a prospecting strategy. Then we're going to develop a contacting strategy, right? And then we're going to develop a one-on-one strategy. So you'll have an outline of what is my game plan. How am I going to get in front of new people? How am I going to make contact with them? And then what am I going to do, you know, how am I going to sit down with them and actually introduce what I do, right? Listen, if you were terrible at what we do, right? If you were horrible at it, your skill set was well below par. But you got in front of, I'm pointing to you as if you're terrible at this, Rocky. So if you were terrible at what we do, but you got in front of 10 people, and the guy next to you, let's say Don gets in front of 3 or 4 people, and he's great at what we do, who's going to win? Rocky. Listen, being great at something and real polished at something, it makes up about that much difference. But you get in front of people and give yourself a chance, and you give yourself way more chances than somebody else, you're going to win. I wish I could find this clip again. I think, if I remember right, I was watching those. What are those basketball Pepsi commercials where it's Uncle Drew? Who's seen those Uncle Drew deals? Are those awesome? I think it was one of those, and it was an extended, uncut version, where they were interviewing LeBron James in the back of the car on the way to one of these things, or the way after. I think this was it, but one of the things he was asked, which I just thought it was so powerful, I need to go back and see if I can find the clip again, but they said, how did you become so great? And something to that effect. How did you become so amazing? And when you think about a guy like that, you think about all the tricks. You think about the incredible dribbling skills and you watch it. I was watching Barcelona play. I'm a huge soccer fan, and Messi, greatest soccer player of all time. Don't even argue that. And they were playing against Liverpool, and man, oh my gosh, there were several moments where you just go, holy cow, how does a guy do that? At one point he jukes down the sideline and just does a little chip of the ball over the defender and then runs around him. And you just think, man, holy cow, how did he get to be able to do that? LeBron James was asked kind of a similar question. How did you get to where you were operating at such a high level of skill set? And his answer was, I first mastered the fundamentals. Right? And so my caution to you is that you spend less time trying to look at the advanced world that's kind of out there a little ways, where you're thinking about, man, how do I polish this and polish that? Work on the fundamentals. The fundamentals is, how do I get more names from people? How do I get more referrals? How do I get in front of more new people and tell the story? That's the activity side of the business. The result side will come because of high levels of activity, right? It's getting in front of people and telling your story. It's having a goal. Who am I going to get in front of? How am I going to tell that story? So basically you look at a guy like LeBron James, could he stand in front of you? I mean, we should bring out some basketballs to a training one time. You'd like this, right, Rocky? It'd be real sick if we did soccer, because most people can't use their feet at all when it comes to sports. But we could try basketball. I think more often, maybe a higher percentage of people have dribbled a basketball around before. But we should have a few people, like 4 or 5 people, dribble a basketball, and just let them. And here's what they do 99% of the time. They dribble it and be looking at it the whole time, right? Yep. Watching it. Do you think if we then said, don't look at the ball, do you think it'd be the same game?
Nope.
They would be like, where did that thing go, right? And it's bouncing off in different directions. Do you think LeBron James can dribble a basketball without looking at it? Do you think he can go between his legs a little bit and do that, and around his back? How hard is that do you think he maybe can do that with 2 balls? Think he can dribble 2 basketballs and not even look at it? Absolutely. How does he get to that level?
Practice.
You're not going to learn to do some crazy crossover, double pump fake, deal, reverse layup, if you don't first learn how to master the fundamentals. So what he did was he spent years and years and years just the fundamentals, dribbling. You think he started out at one point dribbling while he watched the ball? And then somebody said, what?
Stop watching.
Stop looking at the ball. And then you get used to that over time, and then you develop another skill. So when he said that, what I heard was, I mastered the fundamentals. For me, it's no problem, right? I know all the fundamentals, the basics of a jump shot. I know how to do a free throw. I know the form. I've spent years learning those basic fundamentals. And then you see me do the fancy stuff, right? You see me breaking people's ankles. And you go, holy cow, how did he do that? He mastered the fundamentals first. So you look at other people that are very successful, and you go, man, that guy's amazing. Well, how did he get there? He mastered the fundamentals first. So let's get rid of this mentality like I need to be looking for all this extra fancy stuff. Just go see people. Just work on that deal. If 95% of new businesses spent 80% of their time plus on how am I going to get in front of new people and introduce them to what I do, I guarantee you 95% of businesses would not go out of business in 12 to 18 months. That's the secret. It's just work. Okay?
All right.
So I love these goals. Have we got them on Slack?
Not yet.
So let's post them on our thread, and then I'd love to hear progress throughout the week. Where are you at on your goals? What are you doing? I think Amy had a great idea. Let's see everybody with no zeros. But some of you that haven't been struggling with that, let's see if you can step up this week on what you did last week. And I hope you're all listening to me. Those that are on the call, I hate to see you let yourself off the hook and go, oh, well, that's easy. I could easily do no zeros. If you've been doing that consistently, what I want you to do is I want you to increase what you did last week this week. For some of you, not getting any zeros is beneath you. For some of you, that'd be huge. John, I'd love to see you. And that's not a huge thing for you. But you might have to push a little bit to get in front of somebody. Yeah, and if you don't have any one-on-one scheduled, that means today you're going to have to get on it and say, okay, I got to finish this week with at least get in front of one person. And lay that out. And by the way, that's not anything to be embarrassed about.
No.
It's just, we're at some point, we were all at different levels. At some point, we all started somewhere. I've had days, I've had weeks in my career where I was like, I just got to do something. Because I got no momentum going on. I got to do something. So, listen, we need to celebrate these successes along the way. I just want to make sure, I think some of our team, like Ken and Luis maybe, who else? That might be the two easier ones. Maybe Ken and Luis. I think consistently they've been doing stuff in all four areas. So for them and maybe a few others of you, I want you to look at what you've done in these areas and maybe set a higher goal, right? Just getting by isn't going to cut it. And you can kind of see that reflected in some of these numbers. But I'd like to see that stepped up. If everybody did what's in here on these things, man, we'd see some great things happening. And you could change your entire business in the next, several weeks. Okay? Any questions? Ready to roll? All right. Thanks, everybody.
Hey.